Tonight, our first guest went 15-3 as a starter at safety for BYU during the second half of the 2007 season. All of 2008, Max Hall quarterbacked the offense, Kellen Fowler quarterbacked the defense, and it's our pleasure to welcome Blaine's oldest son to the Wise Guys. This is a family first. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
Are you the smartest football player in the history of BYU? And it goes back to 1922.
You're setting quite a bar there. I think I can.
Well, we're going to lower the bar later, so we like to set it up high.
There are a lot of smart guys that have come through there. I did my best.
How smart do you have to be a good safety?
It's a tough question, actually, and to do a good job in that role, not only do you have to know your own assignment, you have to execute with excellence, but there's a lot of coaching that goes on for the guys that are around you, trying to make sure that the defense is lined up well, that all the right calls are made, that everybody knows their responsibilities. That's not a small task. And so you typically see some guys back there who are a little bit more cerebral.
Well, they're the quarterback of the defense, right?
That's what they say.
So you break the huddle and explain to everybody, you break the huddle and the safety usually goes back behind everybody. So you're looking at their 11 and the other 10, right? So you're looking at this group, and your job's to make sure that your guys are in the right spot. So don't you have to be what? You're the commander back there.
A little bit. And one of the things that I love about football, people will talk about the different sports and the things that you can learn in different sports. And a lot of people will say football is the ultimate team sport, because it really is. There's no other sport that you play where you play for 6 seconds and then stop for 40 seconds and strategize and all group together and say, okay, what are we going to do next? There's 6 seconds of explosive activity, then a lot of planning. And to make sure that planning actually plays out on the field, there's a lot of real-time adjustments that are made. And when you're standing back there at safety, you do your best in the huddle to get a call that you think is going to match up against the offensive call. But when they come out and they line up, it's open game at that point. It's open season. They may line up how you thought they were going to line up. They may line up entirely differently. And as a defense, you got to be able to react and all be on the same page, or else you're going to leave big opportunities for the offense.
You know that we work with your buddy Dave Nixon, and when you were playing, you had Dave Nixon up there, you had Brian Keel up there at linebacker in front of you. Let's see, Cam Jensen played in the middle at part of the time. Who else played middle while you were?
We had Matt Bauman in there.
That's right, Matt, really smart guy.
Did those guys like getting bossed around by you?
Well, it's funny because Dave and Brian in particular are two of my close friends to this day. Yeah. We like to tease them that for Corby Hodgkiss and Scott Johnson and myself and the guys who are back behind, it was our job to make them look right. Whatever they did, we had to be able to recognize it and fill in on the other sides. But we held our own. Let's put it that way.
Explain that, though, because people don't understand, especially in Broncos defenses, but I think it's the same today. As things get passed back through the defense, it's the safety's job to make it all right. So if you make a call in the huddle and you come out and you stick with that call on the field, and then Dave Nixon just does his own thing, or Brian Keel more likely does his own thing, right? You have to counter what he's doing. It may not even be the play, right? How does that all play out?
Yeah, it's one of the things, again, going back to why football is the greatest sport. There's a plan, and then there's everything that happens after the plan. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right?
Mike Tyson.
Right. As soon as that play starts, a lot of big, strong people are crashing into each other trying to make things happen. But a defense has to have gap integrity and assignment sound execution, or you're going to give up big plays. And so when a tight end tries to reach block and Brian Keel thinks, I can see the running back, I'm going to go underneath, I'm going to get him there. But he's supposed to have force. As the safety, sometimes you got to see, okay, I see what Brian's doing, I'm going to go fill on the outside and turn that ball back in. And I think that was one of the things that was really great about our defenses. And we had some good defenses while I played. We had some talented players. We had a really high level of effort and accountability that we had among the team for that the kind of excellence that we expected, but we really played together. And most games when we lined up, if we were having a track meet against the team we were playing, we were getting run off the track in no time. But when it came to football, we were really sound, and we were able to play some solid defense.
How did playing quarterback in high school prepare you to play safety at BYU?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities there. Like you said, trying to quarterback the defense, being able to think through things and understand what you're seeing and make adjustments that would help the team succeed, and then being vocal. I think that's people underestimate sometimes how hard it is to get everybody on the same page. And there's a lot of hand signals out there, but a lot of the time you're just yelling at people. You're trying to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and that everybody's on the same page. And so there was definitely a fair amount of that in our defenses. And under Broncos scheme, there's a lot of responsibility that's put on the safeties to make sure that everybody's lined up. And that was a responsibility that I think myself, Scott Johnson, Andrew Rich, Corby Hodgkiss, Quinn Gooch before me, that was a responsibility that we all took very seriously.
You know, these guys, the teams that Kellen, where he was starting in the back end, the bowl games, they played in back-to-back Las Vegas Bowls. One year they play a UCLA, and they get a last-second block field goal to win that one. Then the next year they play Arizona, and Kellen sets a Las Vegas Bowl record for tackles in the Arizona game. That's not a good thing.
No. They ran right through everyone else.
Not supposed to set a record that game for tackles. And that team just happened to have the Gronkowski brothers that were running around. So Kellen had to run around and chase both Gronkowskis around all game long. And our plan wasn't that good in that game, was it?
Yeah, it was just one of those ones. I think it's a good example of what happens when you have gaps in your assignment soundness as a defense. And there were some things that they did scheme-wise where they were running the fullback Gronkowski through the middle of the defense, and for us, we had some people who weren't picking up on their assignments, and so there were several times where I was looking around saying, "Oh my gosh, these look like twins, and they're both open. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here," and that ends up in a little bit of a headache at the end of the night. Let's put it that way.
How hard is it for Micah Harper, who is a redshirt freshman playing safety, to be able to do all that a senior safety gets to do by having the credibility of yelling and telling people to get in the right spots? And back here you got like one of the youngest guys on the defense trying to do that. I don't even know if the older guys listen to a young guy when they're getting bossed around, but it seems like when you're playing somebody so young back there, you're asking for trouble.
I think it's two things. First off, it's a tremendous credit to him and the preparation that he has. I mean, for most people coming in as a freshman, just being physically prepared to get on the field is a big deal. And so, props to him for being prepared for that. Second, they can't put you out there if you can't execute your assignments. And so even though he's trying to stitch together a lot of things, he's been able to make some plays, to be assignment sound enough that the coaches trust him to be out there. And then I think that gives him a great opportunity. Playing this young and having that experience gives him a great opportunity to really develop into a tremendous leader in the future. He's going to be able to draw on a lot of experience. He's going to be able to look out at an offense that walks up to the line in the future and say, "Oh, I've seen something like this before. I've been in a game like this before. This is nothing. This is just routine for me." And that's really impressive. But it is, I think, again, a defense that trusts each other makes a big difference in their ability to perform. And so for the rest of those guys, it doesn't matter whether it's a freshman, somebody fresh off the bus, or whether it's somebody who's been there for 5 years. If you don't have that trust and you're not aligned on the same page, you're going to give up big plays.
What do you like most about Micah Harper? Man, it seems like one's flying all over the place out there and making plays. When you watch his game, he's playing the strong, and then you've got Alfrey, think about that. Not only 7 new guys, but you thought you had Malik Moore, a 4-year vet at free. Now you got Alfrey, a freshman, playing at free, and you got Micah Harper, a redshirt freshman who got hurt last year, playing at strong safety. What do you like about Harper's game, and how hard is it to have 2 freshman safeties?
So the thing that I noticed with Harper is that he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up and run support. And I think for us, we need DBs who can cover, who can lock down on the pass game, but also who can support in the run game. And he's not afraid to do that. He'll come up, he'll make a solid tackle. He's good in space, which is really hard. People underestimate how hard it is to tackle somebody when there's no one around you. And so I think he's done a good job of doing that. And I think to your question about starting 2 freshman safeties, it just amplifies the issue. There were definitely times in our defenses where if you had somebody who's young or inexperienced, you're looking to somebody else, a veteran who's been there before, who's not maybe feeling the nerves as much to help calm things down when you're out there in the hustle and bustle. And right now, those guys look at each other, they're probably both seeing saucers. And so that's it's a great opportunity, again, to get experience for some young guys who are going to be good, who are going to be around here for a while, but it does put some real strain on your defense in the present.
Former BYU safety Kellen Fowler's on the Wise Guys tonight. This is a tough interview for your dad because he mostly just wants to talk about how great you are, but we have to back it up into questions, and so more of that's going to come out, but that's what dads get to do. You had a taste of both worlds during your time at BYU. During your first 2 seasons, BYU goes 5-7 in 2002, and then 4-8, and then you got on. That's 1-5 at home that season. Then you go on your mission. They fire Gary Croton. You come back. Broncos the head coach, and then over the next 3 years, the team wins 32 games. What was the difference?
I think that sometimes adversity can be helpful for the mentality of a team. And if you look at those hard years really helped develop a hunger and a real commitment to putting in the extra work day after day after day to try and be better. And there were some unbelievable leaders who emerged from those bad teams that really set the tone for those good teams. And if you look at guys like a John Beck or a Cameron Jensen, a Curtis Brown, Jake Caressa, those were guys who went through a lot of that losing. And I think it shaped the character of the team. And one thing that I always felt really proud of and really gave me a lot of confidence when we took the field when we started to win again was that I didn't always look across the line and say, I know we have better athletes than those guys. In fact, in a lot of cases, I looked across the line and said, okay, we've got some great athletes on our side. But again, if this is a track meet, I don't know where my money's going to be. But I knew for sure, and especially with the level of effort that Bronco demanded and the accountability that he demanded and the standard that he set, that there was no way that team was as prepared as we were for the game. We had practiced harder. We'd watched more film. We were better in our assignments. We had a scheme that was better than their coach's scheme, and that we were going to be able to go out there and we were going to be able to outcompete these guys. And that you don't get that when you don't have full buy-in from the guys who are out there between the white lines. And I think sometimes a little bit of adversity just resets in your mind how much you're willing to give to the game, because losing sucks and nobody wants to go through that.
It does suck. There's nothing good about it.
And they've gone through this little phase this year. And we've been documenting injuries a little bit that were certainly part of that. But it's almost like losing becomes infectious and it's hard to climb out of that. Do you see some good from this little skid right now that may help this team as they go into the Big 12 next year?
I do think there can be some good that comes from it. It depends on how the players react to it. I think there's sort of two paths that can happen when you experience adversity in football, in life. You can back away from it and sort of shut down a little bit and look for an easy way out. Or you can rise to the occasion and you can say, okay, this is showing us what the standard requires. The level of excellence that we want to achieve here takes work. Nothing worth having comes easy. And I think when we move to the Big 12, there's going to be some challenging weeks. There's some fantastic teams, some fantastic coaches, unbelievable talent in that conference. It's not going to be bad for our teams to have experienced a little bit of adversity, to have had to figure out how to flip momentum. And I think this Boise State game that we just had this past weekend, for me, I was really excited to see that it felt like there was a change in momentum and attitude among the team, and that when bad things would happen on the field, they didn't cascade into more bad things and more bad things and more bad things. And then all of a sudden people are scrambling. They're out of position because they're trying to cover for the guy next to them. It seemed like the team held together, fought through the adversity, and that enabled them to be in a position to go and win in the second half. Admittedly, our first half was not that clean. We should have been up by a lot.
Yeah.
We dominated those guys and left points all over the field. It's easy to have a half like that and come back in the second half and fold and not stick it out and compete. But we went out there, even got down in the fourth quarter, went down, scored the touchdown, got the stop to secure the win. And I think that shows a lot about the character that this team has, that some of that is developed through adversity.
You had some adversity, 2006, medical red shirt. Was it a knee, a shoulder? What was it?
It was hamstrings.
Hamstrings.
Post-mission
hamstrings.
That's
Yes.
right. They're a thing for sure.
A lot of people can attest to those post-mission hamstrings.
I interviewed Micah Harper for Game Day last week, and he had sat out last season along with Cody Epps. Harper had a knee, and then he said, and then Epps is their buddies in the business school, and then Epps is out for the season. And I asked him about injuries in football, and his quote is cool, and I want to get your reaction to it. He says, "Football's tough. Sometimes I just laugh at myself and say, man, we're crazy to play football. It's a dangerous sport, but we love it. That's what motivates us every day to keep going, because we just love the game." So in what way does the reward trump the risk of playing?
It's that's a really interesting question, and we could probably go really deep on that one. But I don't know. There's something about dedicating so much time and energy to try and be excellent in something with people who ultimately become your best friends that is really hard to replicate. And the years that I spent playing football at BYU are some of the best years in my life. Those guys that I played with, that I played next to, that we went through that adversity, that we won games together, those are still my best friends. And I've done a lot of other things since football, have never found a way to replicate that kind of brotherhood that you develop and the high that comes from running out on the field in front of 65,000 people with the fireworks going off and a chance to go out and give an accounting of the preparation that you've put in, because the prep for football is hard. Yeah. Like we said, it's a game that you play once a week. So your practice to game ratio is actually really high, index towards practice in football. And it's really rewarding to work so hard for something and then have an opportunity to see it come through. And, you know, for me, my grandma Fowler, who I love so much and passed away a little over a year ago, she used to always ask me from the time I was a kid, are you sure you don't just want to play golf?
She would say that to all of our kids, by the way.
She's a wise woman.
Yeah.
And she's a huge football fan, by the way, but she would say that to all the boys, right?
It was a little tongue-in-cheek, but I'm not sure that it entirely was. I think she recognized the risks that come from playing football, but you know, she said it tongue-in-cheek because she knew how much we loved the game. I feel like a lot of the things that I've done in life post-football and a lot of the places where I've been able to have successes are based on lessons that I learned in the game, in being someone who worked hard, someone who probably didn't have everything come easy as a walk-on, who was able to earn my way into a scholarship and to starting on the field, and just learning that tenacity and the grit and the standard that's required, the standard of excellence that's required to get out there and play at that level. Those things have served me well and will continue to serve me well in other things that I do. And so there's real value in athletics and in sports and in football in particular.
You know, we talk about, and we still call them student athletes today. I mean, NIL deal changes the way it feels a little bit.
Student business
athletes, right? So professional student athletes now. But and this is where Dad gets to brag a little bit. So, and you mentioned Dave Kellen's one of the most decorated academic athletes, first team academic All-American, NCAA postgraduate scholarship award winner. There's not very many of those. Finalist for the Drady Trophy for the top academic athlete in the country. And then BYU's only Mountain West Conference Student Athlete of the Year across all sports.
I was amazed that you're so much like us. I had no idea.
Exactly.
So to be fair, only male Mountain West Conference Student Athlete.
Right, that's true, because there was a female BYU
who's a good friend of mine, so I have to give her props. Yeah. That was Lindsay Steele and now Lindsay Metcalf.
Right. So Kellen and Lindsay, all the years BYU was in the Mountain West Conference, we only have one female and one male get that award, which I'm a little disappointed in, actually. But so that gives you credibility when we ask this question. How can these guys do this? You had a rigorous academic schedule, and they expect you to be student athletes. You just told us it's 5 days of practice and a game. How do you balance that and excel in both areas and come out on the other end?
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of commitment, and it takes good prioritization skills. When you've got a lot on your plate, you got to figure out what you're going to do, where you're going to invest your time and your energy. And remember, as college students, many of these guys are also trying to date a little bit. They're trying to keep up the social life. And so there is a lot on your plate. And I think that having sort of predefined to yourself what your standards look like in all of those areas, what's acceptable, what's your potential, what's your capability, and how hard are you going to push to live up to that capability. For me, all growing up, it was academics first and then athletics. And I never had to miss a game because my grades weren't in line. Yeah. And luckily for me, the academic side came relatively easy. Learning was always easy for me, but it's not always the case for everybody. And I think making those priorities and holding yourself accountable to the standard is something that takes a lot of work. And it's doable, but it's busy. I mean, there are not very many people. When I got to law school, I went to law school after I graduated from BYU, and people talked about, wow, law school is so hard. I spent so much time studying.
Virginia Law School.
Yeah, went out to the University of Virginia, where Bronco ended up coaching, not while I was there, but a beautiful university, tough law school, highly rated, very competitive. I think very competitive to get in, actually has an awesome collegial atmosphere once you're there. But for me, it was like, wow, this is amazing. I have so much free time here in law school, because I've never had this ability to like do some of the things that I'm doing now, because the schedule with football and school and trying to keep those things on track was just really, really busy. And so it's it was the only life I knew. It's the only life that most of these student athletes know. And it's a real kudos to all of us, to all of them, for keeping up on all that they have to keep up with.
Kellen Fowler was second on the team with 88 tackles during BYU's 10-3 season in 2008. Also second on the team with a 35.5-inch vertical leap. He's our guest on the Wise Guys. Who was first?
Who was first?
Yeah, who jumped higher?
Bryce Mawika.
Oh, that's
Bryce
right.
Mawika?
Bryce.
And I think he was 38.5. So
Wow.
he was like
He's like-
first by a ways.
But the silver medal stand is fine, especially if the gold medal guy's like seconds.
Why'd you
seconds
ask
ahead.
me who was first, Dave? Come on.
I researched it and I thought, what everyone's going to want to know? Oh yeah, who
And that's
who
one of
jumped
his
higher
best
than
buddies
that?
too, Bryce.
Yeah.
But Kellen's like how much taller than Bryce? A couple inches taller than Bryce and longer arms. So
Yeah.
So I think Kellen could probably dunk it better than Bryce back in the day.
So
Bryce is not that tall, but you got to give him props because he could throw it down.
a couple
he
more
could.
minutes with Kellen. You growing up, you wanted to play quarterback. And you wanted to play at BYU, throw passes like your dad. Air Force wanted you to play quarterback because you ran that thing up at Davis High School that everyone had trouble with the option, which is what Air Force does. And so then you have to decide, do I really want to be a quarterback or do I want to come to BYU? What made you decide to give up the offensive side of the ball?
There was a lot that went into that decision. And admittedly, it's fun for me to be here on a show with my dad. Part of the reason why I wanted to be a quarterback at BYU is because my dad was always my
Right,
hero.
sure.
So I wanted to go do what he did. And Air Force was pretty compelling in their pitch. When I went on my visit to the Air Force Academy, my recruiting visit, they showed my name up on the scoreboard there, but they made sure to tell me, you're going to be able to throw touchdown passes in Cougar Stadium if you come here.
Coach Peterson, that was a good pitch.
The 3 times they were going to throw all year, they were going to throw in
exactly.
I was
pro.
probably going to run a lot more touchdowns, but that I was going to have a chance to do that. And that there was a real draw to that. And I think that, as someone who's fairly patriotic, there was also a draw to the military academy and the line of service that would be in and being able to give back to my country. But at the end of the day, I just had to really level with myself on what am I looking for? Where do I think I'm going to have the best opportunity to have the entire experience that I want? And I felt like BYU was going to give me that in a few ways. Not that I couldn't get in the Air Force Academy, but that were going to come easier for me at BYU. And I think the fact that I met my wife there, made lifelong friends there that I'm still in touch with, I'm really happy with the way things turned out. I can imagine an alternate universe where I went to the Air Force Academy and tried to fly planes or went into the medical field or something like that.
It worked out for Tom Cruise,
Yes, it did.
Worked out for him.
Yeah, and how old is he now? And he's still like, I
still
wouldn't
got
want to
it.
have my shirt off next to that guy.
still-
So, he's clearly doing something right. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just tried to step back from football because admittedly, the pitch from the Air Force Academy was pretty strong. And they recruited me a lot harder than BYU did. BYU, I came as a walk-on. I was, preferred walk-on, so on the squad. But there was some work to be done to really achieve what I was looking for at BYU. But ultimately, I think in my heart of hearts, that's what I had always wanted. That's what I dreamed about since I was a little kid. I wore the little, Hutch BYU football outfit for Halloween year after year after year.
I can't believe he remembers the brand as Hutch.
We all wore those jerseys.
We all wore the Hutch
They
helmets.
always delivered on Halloween.
That's right. And so for me, being able to go play at BYU was really just a culmination of the dreams that I had always had. And so whether it was on defense, whether it was on offense, I just wanted a chance to be on the field, to contribute. And admittedly, there was part of me that wanted to validate that I belonged.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of walk-ons, there is a bit of a chip on their shoulder to sort of show people, I can do this. Like, I believe that I have the ability to get out there and make a difference. And being able to do that here in Provo, where my family was close, they could come to the games in the place that I remember storming the field when Ty Detmer beat Miami with my mom because my dad was up in the booth broadcasting. Being able to do it on that same field where I had so many childhood memories was really, really awesome and fulfilling for me.
I think it's interesting too, and one area of that aspect that I can relate to is even at Good Morning America, while I was finishing up school, I noticed there was a power to be a BYU graduate, and I always wanted to be it because it always got there before I did. Whether I was going to go interview somebody or whatever, before I got there, they already knew I was a BYU guy. They'd never met me, but they already had a positive stereotype of how I was probably going to be. And I've noticed that through my whole career. BYU gets there just before you do. And that's powerful. And an 18-year-old trying to decide where to go to school doesn't think that way. But an older person looking back goes, wow, there's power behind being a BYU guy.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. It's a tremendous network. I think there's a lot of people would say similar things to what I said, that the years that they spent at BYU were some of the best years of their life, where they formed lifelong relationships.
Yeah.
They really established certain values and standards for their life and had an unbelievable experience. And so it's when you look at the total package at BYU, it's tough to beat. Now, admittedly, Air Force is not a bad one either.
They're pretty close.
To anybody who's considering the military academies,
Navy's all right too, right?
Those are not bad places to invest a few years of time in your own training.
So we have 3 boys. So Kellen and Landon and Gavin all played at BYU, and the only thing that we said to them during the recruiting process, and Kellen can vouch for this, or maybe he doesn't even remember this, is we just said, listen, you can play football anywhere, and you can live your dream anywhere. And so you need to make this decision based on not what's on the football field, because on day one, you could blow your knee out and not play. So you need to make a decision on what school you go to based on where you're the most comfortable if you weren't playing football. That's the only advice we gave our boys. They all ended up at BYU, and so did our 2 daughters. So we got 5 kids, 5 graduates from BYU. But that's something to consider. If you're a parent of a recruit out there, you can get to the big time from wherever. If you're a great player, you're going to get there from San Diego State. You're going to get there from BYU. You're going to get there from Ohio State. They'll find you, and you have a chance to flourish. So you really ought to make that decision based on where am I going to be the most comfortable and where am I going to get the most out of it if I wasn't playing my sport. And if you ask that question, BYU is the answer to a lot of people. All
right, here's a question. I want you to be honest. I'm pretty sure you've been honest this whole time, but this is an extra honest response.
This seems like a scary setup.
Who put more pressure on you to succeed at football? Your dad, your mom, Brenda, or your late grandmother, Barbara?
That's
not just go have fun, to be careful with it. I'm talking about, hey, you got our name on your jersey. Don't disappoint us.
Luckily, I can honestly say I don't know that I ever felt that pressure. I think the person who wasn't on that list was myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like the pressure that I put on myself.
I didn't put your grandfather anyway. I just gave him a free pass.
Yeah, and he would have taken that too. He was supportive. And I think that's the interesting thing. My wife is really funny about this because people ask me. I have 4 kids, 3 girls, 9, 6, and 4, and then a little boy who's 1. So for a while, I never had to answer the question of, well, are you going to let your boy play football? Now I get that question, and my wife is kind of funny. She's like, he's not going to let them. Of course Tanner's going to play football. Like, he has to in this family. And I always tell her, like, no, you don't understand. That wasn't the way that it was in our household.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we were exposed to a lot of football.
And it turned out everyone did play football.
They all played.
Everyone did play, but there was never a lot of pressure to do it. I think for us, it was more pressure to find something that you love and invest everything that you have in excellence in whatever that is. That could be music, that could be sports. And for us boys, it happened to be football. For my sisters, it was different things. But the pressure was not to be excellent in football. It was to hold yourself to a standard of excellence in whatever it is that you love and want to put your time and energy into doing. And I really appreciate that I never felt forced into football. And maybe it was all subliminal. Maybe it was all
no. We would have been fine. We would have been fine if none of them played.
Your cereal bowl was a football helmet growing up.
But only one of them chose football as a career, because Gavin's the only one that's chosen football as a career. Landon's an accountant, and Kellen's he's not. He is an attorney, but now he's running a business. And then, Nicole's being a mom, but she's a world-class marathoner now.
Yeah.
And then Libby's a world-class performer, Broadway star. And they just chose what they wanted to do. We would have been happy if all of them mixed it all up and didn't choose that. We just wanted them to pursue what they loved, because, hey, there's a lot of ways to make money in this world, right? In a chosen profession. It sure is a lot nicer life if you can go do something that you love. Like, look what you and I get to do.
Right.
You kidding me with this stuff?
Game last night, game Saturday.
Dave and I don't tell anybody that we would do this stuff for free.
No, because they would take us
up on it.
All right, before your dad hits you up with 5 questions, here's our last question for you tonight. So you're president of Luna Solutions, which focuses on vision care. How did playing safety at BYU all those years ago prepare you to succeed in business?
I think it comes back to some of the things we've already talked about. You got to have strong preparation. You got to have confidence in your ability to go out and execute. You got to be prioritizing. You got to make sure that you are focused on the things that are really going to move the needle. And then there's always a little bit of a competitive aspect to it. The business world is very different playing field than the football playing field, but there are a bunch of people trying to succeed in the same spaces. And so recognizing that competition, holding yourself to a very solid standard of excellence in everything you do, all of that feeds into what I'm doing today. And it's a great job. I love my job. I have an opportunity to try and go out, build great software that makes vision care simple, affordable, and accessible, and hopefully along the way, be able to bring access to vision care to the billions of people around the world who actually don't have a local optometrist or ophthalmologist that they can connect with. And so it's something that I can actually get passionate about and put my energies into. And I feel quite lucky that that's the case and blessed to be where I'm at.
Fantastic. All right, you ready?
Okay, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to be surprised. Maybe he's going to surprise me. We ask everybody 5 questions, Kelso. Your favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans.
Not surprised.
Which me and Gavin actually on Sunday, just this past Sunday, we're getting into a discussion about Remember the Titans versus Rudy. How do you balance those
Gavin
two?
doesn't like Rudy because he thinks it's too fake. And you and I know Rudy.
Yeah,
So
we do.
I told him he's not fake. So, but
Those are both good. I went with Hoosiers back in our first show.
Remember the
That's
Titans
tough
is
one to
mine,
beat.
but Rudy's right there.
Guy.
Marie Osmond was Hoosiers too, so that's our game.
So, okay, favorite band or singer?
That's a hard one. I've got like the most varied taste in music. You may find me one day like jamming out to country, and the next day like solid Tupac and Biggie. So it's
let's come up with one.
I'm their Tupac and Biggie influence.
I'm not surprised by that.
And then I don't know who's this country influence. Probably Brenda.
Right.
If I was to pick one,
that's it.
Probably got to be.
Remember, this is only a 2-hour show.
Yeah. I'm like stumped right now. Michael Jackson.
Oh,
All right.
that one did surprise me, but I really like the choice. Okay, favorite breakfast cereal?
The all berries version of Cap'n Crunch.
My kids will never choose a non-sugar cereal. I'm telling you that right now.
Drives my wife
they're
crazy.
banned from the family.
See, I like Captain Crunch straight.
Yeah,
I
he eats
don't go that
regular. I
other
don't know how he
stuff,
doesn't
but-
eat the Crunch Berries.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, your favorite BYU memory. It doesn't have to be football. It can be football, but any BYU memory. Your favorite one.
Favorite BYU memory. It probably is a football memory. I think it's not a specific one. Honestly, my favorite memory, I still get emotional when I get to a game early enough to be there when the team runs out on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the fireworks go out.
All that going down with Rise and Shout playing, like that still hits me in a soft spot. And so I got to do that several times. So it's not one specific thing, but that is my favorite.
Run out of the tunnel on a big game, even now. Yeah,
All right,
it's
I'm
pretty
really
awesome.
interested in this next one.
Oh, yeah, because Dave put the 5th question. So, favorite advice from your father? Oh, man.
From my father?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's your favorite advice from your father. I didn't write that question, by the way. That's Dave's question.
Man, probably find something you love and chase it. And I don't know he ever said it in those words, but that was a consistent theme for all of us in the family. Find something you love and chase it and never get tired.
Good advice.
Yep.
Words to live by.
But once you choose it, you better be excellent. No pressure, though.
No pressure.
No pressure,
I
though.
thought you were going to say favorite piece of advice for your father. That
No.
no.
This is our show.
Yeah.
You got to get your own show. To
Everybody's
start
getting,
throwing
like,
that
look,
out.
we got all these people that send us stuff advice, right? So they send us advice.
Hey, and folks, someone sent us an update on that women's basketball score. I
Yep.
saw BYU was up, I think 33-30. Give us a time of the game and a score there. Give our best to Sarah and the kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
great
I don't
to
know
have
if
you with
people
us.
can see this. Oh, you can't see it close enough, but that gash in my eye right there, that's from Sunday night. Tanner, we call him Tanner the terrorist. He threw a metal
The
thing.
1-year-old?
Yeah, he threw a metal thing into my eye Sunday night.
Does he throw with a right hand or a left hand?
I think he throws with both still.
Yeah,
We're
if you can get him to go left.
This was a right-handed
good for Little
This
League.
was a right-handed fastball to the orbital bone.
You got to be ready.
Actually, that's not the orbital bone. This
Yeah,
is
with him around, you really got to be ready. It's all hands on
This
deck.
is like crazy.
The nickname is because we can't keep the guy off of any countertop. If he sees something to climb, he's climbing it, and he's a little bit wild, but that's good.
Yep.
We want
That's what.
that.
Hey, the heir to the throne. That's what he gets to do.
He's very athletic at a very young age.
Kellen, thanks for coming in.